Okay, we are live for the Friday edition of the Mike and Mario Show. Excited to be back and looking forward to talking about all the craziness happening. and
Yeah, definitely.
It's never been more important right now to get your weight up because of all this continuous money creation and debt insolvency globally. But anyway, Mario, how you doing, my friend?
Yeah, I'm doing well. And you, Mike?
Not bad at all. Not bad at all. Apart from the weather here in Michigan, getting a little nippy out here outside, but it's winter's approaching, so but it's all good. I'll keep moving. But other than that, for those that are tuning in, welcome. As always, want to make sure you guys get your questions answered. So feel free to throw questions out in the chat, and then perhaps if we got enough time, might try to open up the phone lines. Haven't done that in a while, and see if anybody wants to call in and share their thoughts or comments or whatnot. But let's kick it off. Lots of stuff to touch on. We got the G20. We got Halloween this weekend, minus the Biden Halloween party. So what do you want to touch on first, Mario?
I think they canceled the party because he'd be too scary for the children, wouldn't he?
Speaking of which, that Let's Go Brandon single or whatever that it's topped all the charts.
Topped the charts, even above Adele.
Exactly, and it looks like social media platforms are pulling it off. Like, so I think TikTok, removed it, and so it's getting some censorship from the tech companies just because it's growing. People are realizing that.
I designed a few some merchandise with Billy, photo of Billy and Let's Go Brandon on Teespring. Just a little bit of commercialism here. If you guys are interested, on my channel in the Teespring store, you can get Billy Let's Go Brandon merchandise.
I'll pull up before we end this today. But
the other thing, I saw that Creepy Joe is at the Vatican with the Pope.
Yeah,
and I tweeted that the bosses of one of the two biggest criminal organizations meet in Rome, and I'm not being like. And I'm being serious because I've got a book here. I'll show you. I'm reading. I haven't finished it yet because I read several books at the same time, but it's called God's Bankers, A History of Money and Power at the Vatican. I highly recommend it. And the Vatican Bank was created in the early 40s. By Mussolini was there. He had given, in 1929, he gave autonomy through the Lateran Treaty to the Vatican. It became an independent state. But when the Vatican Bank was created, it's like a central bank. So it's above the law. They were involved in money laundering for rich Italians. They did a lot of dodgy deals, but they always get away with it because they say, diplomatic immunity. So,
and as watch this, it says the Vatican Bank is different from many other ordinary banks. The bank does not lend money and it does not make direct investments. The bank receives money as deposits and then invests it in government bonds, some corporate bonds, and interbank marketing.
And it also keeps a lot of offshore money for rich Italians. And it also launders money for political parties, for kickbacks. And there was a American cardinal in the 70s and 80s, Cardinal Marcinkus, Paul Marcinkus, and he was head of the Vatican Bank. and I think the SEC tried to investigate them because they got involved with someone that issued fake stocks. They did fake IPOs. And the Vatican was involved, but all they did was deny everything. You see.
They're definitely they operate above the law.
That's why I said, two of the biggest criminal organizations, the District of Criminals, DC, and the Vatican, they're meeting today in Rome.
And then, of course, here's the article says Biden and Vatican to talk climate and poverty. And so climate and poverty looks like
how to make poverty even worse, right?
Exactly. How to further expand their tentacles over humanity and enslave us further. Yeah. So that's definitely what it is. But not surprising.
I just wanted to say that back in the 19th century, the climate change agenda equivalent was the penance, right? You used to buy your
pay for your sins, or
it's called, I forgot, the Peter Pence, it was called, and that's how the Vatican made its money, and because people felt bad
Yeah.
about sinning.
Yeah.
Not saying that you shouldn't follow the right path in life,
Hmm.
but they said that if you pay us this much, you're going to go to heaven. You don't have to do anything. So that's
Oh
how
man.
they ran. And I think this climate agenda is the same thing, but
Hmm.
now they're using us, making us feel guilty about what the weather is or
Yeah.
what's happening
Yeah.
naturally, so that they can stop. And the way that we're going to feel good about it is to insulate our houses, to eat bugs instead of meat because cows pollute. It's all the same thing, and it's all the same people involved: the
Yeah.
Vatican, the bankers, the politicians.
Yeah.
And then I think they're going to go on Sunday. They start this COP26,
Hmm.
which is I don't think Donald Trump, if he were president today, he would be going to this COP26.
Yeah. Yeah, and speaking of which, on to further just shine light on some of the details of who's running things or who's the mediary of running things. I came across an article how BlackRock's Larry Fink is ultimately the head middleman between the East and West transformation. And so I was listening to I think it was Mr. Wonderful, what's his name?
Klaus
O'Leary,
Schwab.
Kevin O'Leary, talk about cryptocurrencies, and he was talking about the whole ESG movement and how ESG movement was set
Yeah.
up early 2004, 2005, but really pushed, as this whole Bitcoin stuff got rolled out. And he was saying how Larry sent out a letter to every single major corporation and basically said that either you comply with ESG or you'll find yourself having difficult to participate in the economy moving forward. And so that was a whole push towards going green when it comes to the Bitcoin movement. And so from that interview there, he was saying how much he controls things. And it's like, if you go against what he's saying, then you'll have some problems. But yet the article was talking about how he's been very friendly towards China. Like he's basically China's yes man. But then Larry Fink also has a much wider grab or overreach over the White House and Biden administration. So it's just interesting how BlackRock has been used by the Federal
Yeah.
Reserve, how China.
And
So
I think BlackRock, they hold a lot of wealth for
mhm,
different people with that through their funds.
yeah.
Some people think that BlackRock owns everything. Indirectly, directly they do, but indirectly it's like, let's say, I think Jay Powell
Yeah.
has his millions with BlackRock. So
Yeah.
it's different people's money that goes there. But I've also noticed that, yeah, this is all about the people who run everything, the
Mhm,
bankers, the financiers,
yeah.
because Mark Carney, who was the governor of the Bank of Canada, he worked for Goldman Sachs, and then he was governor of the Bank of England. I think he got out just in time last year when everything kicked off in March.
Mhm,
He finished his term as governor, and now he's the guy in charge of COP26.
mhm,
He has said the same thing Larry Fink is saying, that big corporations and businesses, if they don't toe the ESG line,
mhm.
they won't get financing. And I think who voted for these people to tell businesses what to do. Unfortunately, a lot of these businesses that are saying yes, they're involved in this because they know that all these rules and regulations are going to kill the
Mhm.
small mom and pop business.
Yeah, 100%. 100%. Okay, so we have a couple articles here. Let's try to thumb through them and share our 2 cents on them, and then open up the phone lines and see if we get some calls in. But let's touch off. So I want to, we got the inflation narrative, we got everything else. So I want to touch off on. Let me see here some articles that I came across. How as the economy continues to heat up. Let me grab this here. It looks like more currency creation is not as inflationary as they would like
Uh,
for us to believe. But Treasury Secretary Yellen says spending bills will be I never heard the word anti-inflationary, lowering important costs. So how dumb could you be, or how dumb could they think we are? But it is what it is. But so
yeah, it's a bit like George Orwell. I think in 1984,
uh-huh.
there's these comments that said, "War is peace, ignorance is strength." Everything. And there's another one I forgot. But everything is upside down.
Yeah.
This is what the MMT queen Stephanie Kelton said as well recently in an interview with. I saw it earlier this week. She was being interviewed online,
Yeah.
and she said, "Yeah, we need to spend more in order to bring inflation down," and that just doesn't make any sense at all.
Right.
That the reason why we have inflation, higher prices, is because a government and the central bank have been stimulating. Have they forgotten all the stimulus from last year? And they want to do more of it. And their excuse is that governments know best, that
Yeah.
governments, they'll take your hard-earned savings and they're going to make it, do really well. They're the ones who have, and it's the Keynesian mentality.
Yeah.
It's the Keynesian mentality.
100%. Here's another article I couldn't pass. Is Representative Carter, inflation's impact will be eased by pumping money into stimulate the economy. So here we
I have to
have,
laugh at that.
yeah, but yeah, they're
Inflation
serious though.
Will be eased by pumping money to.
Stimulate
Can
the
you actually
economy.
play that guy? It would
This
be
is,
interesting to
and this
hear
is like
this.
actually saying this and just in
I
favor of all
mean,
the spending. And so as of now,
yeah,
we got about 60 or so days, and they're still trying to ease out, work out the kinks. But yet,
yeah.
one of the benefits for now is that IRS surveillance mechanism has been removed for
I
now,
saw
but
that. Yeah,
it'll be eventually worked in there or just reworded in some form or fashion and snuck through the
yeah.
bill.
There's the. Let me just get my book here. Hold on.
Yeah. And then what else? Let me see. There's another article I'm going to
I
grab real
think
quick.
I don't know in what page it is, but this book here, "When Money Dies: The
Yeah.
Nightmare of the Weimar Hyperinflation," Adam
Yeah.
Ferguson, and there's a section in here where they talk about that the officials during the Weimar Republic in the early 20s, they thought that printing more money as well would help alleviate inflation. So it's the same kind of thinking,
Yeah.
and you think that these people would learn from
So that's the thing.
history.
I think they do. I think they do know, but it's the only option they have is to try to sell the idea of creating more currency as beneficial for the people.
Yeah.
And mind you, majority of the average person thinks that the more you have, the wealthier you are. So the idea of saying that we're going to print more, therefore you'll get more, therefore you'll be wealthier, but it never works out.
Yeah,
But
I think to give them a little bit of credit or justification, and I'm not trying to, but what they're trying to say is that the government, with all the spending, they're going to put it into the right places to make the economy work better,
yeah,
and that's going to create more supply of things. But we know that what happened in centralized societies like the Soviet Union, Eastern Europe, for 70 years, everything was centralized.
Yeah.
And it didn't work. It collapsed after 70 years because you can't have a bunch of bureaucrats deciding what billions of people are
What's
going to
best for
do.
billions of people.
Yeah,
Yeah.
in a free market.
Right.
So I'm just trying to find here.
Yeah. Free
But,
market. Yeah, that's enemy. That's a bad word to these people nowadays.
and also, yeah, small government as well. People don't realize, the Austrian school, they say that nobody that works for the government pays tax. And you might think, what do you mean? You might work for the government and you pay tax. Well, just think about it. Do a little bit of analysis.
Yeah.
Who pays taxes? Well, it's the private sector. And yes, someone who works for a bureaucracy might pay tax, but who paid his wage? It was us through our
Right.
taxes. So if you make government even bigger, you're actually crowding out the private sector. You're making the economy less productive, less wealthy. And these people are telling us that that's the solution. I mean, it's not going to work. At least we know that it's not going to work. of course, they're going to come out and try to sell it. They're going to have Janet Yellen saying it's the thing to do, Stephanie Kelton, and you might even hear the bankers
Yeah.
come out and say it, even though they're supposed to be pro free market, but they're going to benefit from all the stimulus
Yeah.
because they get a cut of all the debt that goes through the system.
Yeah, and lifelong benefits for being a public official, supposedly.
Mm.
Okay, so let me see. We got a couple more topics worthwhile. So the bond market, I want to touch on that a little bit. That's something I don't touch on too much, just because I have no confidence in debt. But I know it's a good
Yeah.
indicator of what's happening in the grander scheme of things. And so we had the 20 and 30 year, yield inversion slightly. Then of course you mentioned Australia and a couple other nations. Bonds are starting to spike a little bit. So what is that signaling in your estimations?
Well, yeah. I think there's a lot of complacency. A lot of people who are in the deflation camp, for example, they think that the central banks uh, can keep yields low forever in
Yeah.
countries like Australia,
Yeah.
US, or UK. They also think that this rising prices we've had, inflation is transitory. So they're saying, oh, it's going to come back down to 2%. Bond yields are going to go. Some people even think that bond yields are going to go negative in the US. But as you showed that chart there of the Australian bond, the previous chart there.
Yeah, let me go back and grab it. Yeah.
You see, that's the 10-year yield. Today, it went from below 2% to the highest it's been since 2019. And the other thing that the RBA, which is the Reserve Bank of Australia, which is unfortunately their central bank, they had pegged. They did something last April called yield curve control, and they did it on the 3-year bond. And they said, we're going to keep it at 0.1%. But how it works, yield curve control, it's a bit of a mix between psychology and QE. They're telling the market, if yields go above 0.1, if the price of the bond starts dropping, the RBA will intervene and start buying those bonds to drive the yields back to 0.1 or below there.
Yeah.
So for a while, I think they didn't have to do the QE because the markets trusted them. But now they've lost control of that yield curve. And I think today the 3-year went up to almost 1% from 0.1 in the beginning of the year.
Yeah.
Now to 1%. And what's that indicating? It's indicating that bond investors are losing maybe faith and confidence in the central banks, that they can keep prices from rising. Or I always hate saying inflation because it's the central banks that create inflation, but reining in the creation of money and credit. And that's what it's saying. And it's starting to spill over into Europe as well. We're seeing bond yields go up a lot in Germany, Italy, France, the UK. We saw the CPI in Germany is rising quite high. We saw CPI today for the Eurozone, which is Eurozone is it's not the European Union. It's the countries in the European Union that use the euro. Their CPI was expected to be 3.8. It came out at 4.1.
Yeah.
And their target for CPI is 2%. So
I think everybody's was 2%.
Yeah. If we're above target, how come rates are still at 0 or negative? How come you're still doing QE? You just keep talking that you're going to stop it. If anything, rates should be rising right now. And it's going to be very interesting to see what happens, because I think they're losing credibility, because it's not that easy to because they've had a lot of credibility ever since Volcker. But now the market is saying, what about this inflation? It doesn't look like it's transitory.
Right. And that's the thing. Like they use that whole 2% mandate narrative for quite some time. It's ran dry now, And now it's a matter of, having to address those lies, but yet running hot for a longer period of time until it averages out to what they've been lagging behind.
The thing is, whenever it's below that 2%, the CPI, they start cutting rates, doing more QE. And then when it's above, they say, oh, we're going to keep doing QE and cut and having zero rates.
Yeah.
What is it? And
Complete
they're playing dangerous game, I would say. And why is this so important, the bond market? Because it sets the price for all financial assets, and the lower rates are, the higher stock prices go, because if you discount versus zero, the price of stocks go to infinity, and that's why we have the stock market bubble. But if you start seeing yields going up, it's all going to reverse. And then don't forget, mortgage rates are set through yields and interest rates, and if they're rising, mortgage rates are going to start rising, and people are going to start feeling a lot less wealthy because house prices are going to drop. We're seeing the banks here in the UK, the big banks, they've started to raise mortgage rates a couple of days ago.
Yeah, I was trying to click on an article, but I couldn't open it up on my side. Oh, here you go. I was show the little tweet that you placed out there earlier. Barclays, HBC, HBSC, NatWest, and TSB raised mortgage rates just hours after the budget.
And I saw today some more banks raised mortgage rates.
Yeah, and so that definitely will slow things down in the housing market, and therefore that definitely hinders their narrative of a booming economy if people aren't out there buying and shopping for houses. So, yeah, put some more in a tight pinch. But let's take a look at the metals for a minute. Let's jump on that real quick. So with all that, all the bond distractions out there, gold and silver, of course, is heavily
it looks like it's Groundhog Day.
Yeah, for real.
Yeah.
But whenever you can get your hands on some, as always, you know what to do. The counter to all this, the antidote to all this, is actual gold and silver, real money in your possession, as all this stuff unfolds, and you'll be very grateful you did, rather than being left.
And the other thing is, when you keep a balance of fiat currency with the bank, it's an unsecured loan, and they use those funds to leverage even more and to lend money to the government. So by keeping more than you need in the bank, you're actually financing this whole game,
Ponzi scheme. Yeah.
Ponzi scheme. Yes, it's frustrating with what they do with the price, but the truth will out, and you just have to be patient.
Yeah. Now, speaking of which, as they move forward with trying to advance their agenda, I wanted to make sure I mentioned this here. This is what is it? This is from Wall Street Parade. It says Biden's nominee, Omar Moravor, if I'm saying that correctly, has published a plan to move all bank deposits to the Fed and let the New York Fed short stocks.
Wow. Man.
And so if this is true, this is the person Biden's is trying to put the OCC. Here's a couple bullets as to what's suggested. And if they actually move all commercial bank deposits from commercial banks to the so-called Fed accounts, I touched on that a couple of times last year, but all that stuff is already in play. It just needs to have a signature at some point down the line. But it looks like they're using her possibly to execute that. And then that right there is the opening towards that CBDC, because through the Fed accounts, they'll be able to roll out some app similar to what's happening with the eNaira in Nigeria, which I'm hearing that's falling apart at the seams. And then get rid of the FDIC, eliminate the Federal Deposit Insurance Corporation that insures bank deposits. So if everybody's in the Fed's accounts, Fed account server, then there's no need to insure, because it's pretty much guaranteed, because the Fed can just, type a couple digits in there. And then also it's programmable. So therefore, if you're not compliant or in good behavior, they can just deduct a couple things. So getting people to spend. But think about this. If your bank account right now, wherever you're banking at, is automatically put into the Fed's coffers or whatever, then that right there can help them come this next crisis, as far as them wanting you to spend, by giving you a little bit of a time frame and setting up some new frameworks to get more currency out directly from your own possession into the economy, saving them the need to try to inflate things even more on their part.
I looked into this woman, Saleh Omarova. I
Yeah.
think she's a real danger to the American republic, so
Oh,
to
hands
speak.
down. Hands
Yeah,
down.
she was born in Kazakhstan, which
Mhm.
was a Soviet republic. She went to I think Moscow State University. I
Mhm.
mean, she's a communist
Yeah.
through and through, and he wants to nominate her for the office of controller of the currency.
Yeah.
So this would be even more centralization of credit,
Mhm.
and the centralization of credit in the state is basically a plank of the Communist Manifesto. So you're going to end up with just the Federal Reserve controlling everything. It's a nightmare. It's going to be even more centralized.
Yeah.
And, but yeah, it bears watching if this
Yeah.
woman is
No
confirmed.
doubt. And I mentioned the other day on one of my little rants as to just how I've seen several videos of people exposing a lot of high ranking advisors and economic professors, how they all appear to be of Asian descent, and I'm thinking like that can't be a coincidence in my opinion. Not trying to be racist or nothing like that, but it's like, why are these people in influential positions that have direct
Mm.
access to politicians all happen to be from the eastern region or have
Yeah,
origins that
and
point back to the eastern region?
the other thing that I looked as well is she actually worked for the U.S. Treasury under the Bush Junior's uh, administration. So
Yeah.
this goes across the aisle. It's just like they've infiltrated.
Yeah.
America was not created to be a centralized Soviet system.
Hmm.
So yeah, she went to Moscow State University. I mean, she's born in '66, so she grew up during the Soviet Union,
Yeah.
and I think her PhD dissertation was on on Karl Marx or something, and she graduated from Moscow State University in 1989 on the Lenin Personal Academic Scholarship. Her thesis from Moscow State University is titled Karl Marx, Economic Analysis and the Theory of Revolution in the Capital.
Mm.
I mean, it's scary stuff.
Yeah. Very scary, but yeah, she's the puppets play right now, so
Yeah.
we'll see.
The thing is the bankers, you see, they love communism because it destroys the competition.
Mhm.
So the big bankers, like on Wall Street, I would tell the viewers to Google Anthony without an H, Anthony C. Sutton. His
Mhm.
written books about how Wall Street and the City of London financed the Bolshevik Revolution. It's all there. He used to work for the Brookings Institute, I think
Mhm.
in Stanford, but he lost his job because he was finding out things that they didn't want him to find out. So I highly recommend
Mhm.
Anthony C. Sutton. If you Google him,
Yeah,
you
pulling
see
them
all
now.
his books. And it was Rockefeller, the J.D. Rockefeller, who said he hated competition.
Mhm. Anthony C. Sutton. So I see here, okay, America's Secret Establishment. That's probably
Yeah.
something worth checking out too.
If you put it on Google, though, it will
Oops.
bring up, it will show all the books he wrote.
Okay, I'm not allowed
Yeah.
to use Google.
Oh, you don't use Google?
No.
Okay, all right.
But no. All right, so let's get some questions or whatnot. Let's
Yeah,
feel free to throw out some questions or some thoughts or whatnot in the chat. We'll definitely touch on that. And then yeah, love to hear your guys' thoughts, what you're thinking about. I did see a question up. What did we see? I saw a couple of thoughts out there. Well, here's a question. I'm not sure. Let me see. An alternative says, what's in the actual F Fed to short stocks? I think that was in regards to the article I put out
yeah.
there.
Well, that I think the reason for that is that instead of raising rates to uh, calm the markets down and stop the speculation, they
Yeah.
would just like short stocks to basically control the stock markets directly. That's her Soviet communist thinking, that the state has to control, a central authority has
Mhm.
to control everything. I
Yeah.
mean, it's nightmarish stuff, that's for sure.
Yeah, here's a question from Jay. It says, will gold back yuan destroy confidence in the purchasing power of other fiat currencies? Yeah. Gold back yuan, I would say, yeah. If it when
Yeah,
that's
I mean,
announced, yes, definitely.
especially if it's convertible. If you could take, you know, how many? What's the price? I think it's if you could take 12,000 yuan and get an ounce of gold from the
Hmm.
bank at a fixed rate, of course, the other fiat currencies would completely collapse.
Yeah.
That's what I've read from people who know more than I do, because I've learned a lot over the years, but I've learned from other people, and they always say the first country that adopts a gold standard,
Hmm.
something convertible into gold. All the other currencies are going to go the way of the dodo bird. Maybe
Yeah.
not right away, but that's why they had to get the Swiss off gold,
Hmm.
because up until 25 years ago, the Swiss still backed their currency with gold.
Yeah. 13.
Yeah,
So looking at the gold to Chinese yuan, and then as of
yeah, that's
now,
right. It's around 11,500.
11,000 or
Yeah.
so. So interesting. So all-time high for them was, this probably, yeah, last 10 years rather,
Well, that
14.
was like last year, like for us, because
Yeah,
the Chinese yuan is pretty much kind of pegged to the
14.
dollar.
Yeah.
You'd say, yeah.
All
But
right, interesting. What else we got here? Yeah. So no question. So I'm curious. So let's we can't ignore, we can't ignore the preferred asset class of the establishment, which happens to be in this sector right here. So I'm assuming you had to have noticed all the Shiba Inu all time
yeah,
highs, and
what's your $50 worth now, Mike?
it got up to 190.
Oh,
It
okay.
got up to 190, then dropped down to like 150. So
So you've done all right in a
yeah,
week.
exactly,
You
not bad at
tripled your
all.
money. So you put 50,000, right?
I got two. So for $50, I got
No, I was
2.2
joking. I said
billion.
you put.
Huh?
I said I was joking. I said you put $50,000. No, you put $50.
Yeah, but no, there's accounts out here where people put in, I think, $8,000
And
to a
they've
year
got
ago.
billions now,
Yeah,
billions of dollars.
$5 billion, and so it's like,
I mean, that's
wow,
amazing, isn't it?
unbelievable, unbelievable.
Do you want to show the viewers that NFT that went for a cool half a billion?
Oh yeah, and did you get that follow up article I sent saying that it was a prank? It's like the
Oh, was it
owner.
a prank? Was it? I
So the
didn't know it was a
owner,
prank.
he sold it to himself. So he
Oh,
sold it
I
to
see.
himself. So it just it
Oh,
stayed in the family.
all right.
Um,
Significance of yield curve inverting yesterday. Uh, well, um, I think it was back in 2019, in the beginning of 2019, the yield curve actually went neg. Uh, it didn't. It's not inverting the yield
mhm,
curve. It's flattening right now.
yeah.
Uh,
Pull the article.
inversion is when, let's say, the 2-year rate is above the 10-year rate. So we're not inverted yet.
Yeah.
In 2019, the yield curve inverted,
Mhm.
and I made a video back in early 2019 saying that an inverted yield curve usually forecasts a recession. And lo and behold, we had a recession last year. So I think we're still far away from being inverted, the yield curve, but it's flattening right now, which
Yeah.
means that the short term yields are going up quicker than the long term yields. And that's probably because the markets are saying that the Fed's going to have to raise rates quicker because the Feds control the short term rates more than they do the long term rates.
Yeah. And then also I was reading this article here earlier, and even some of the mainstream pundits were apparently not too concerned with the 20 and 30 inverted yield curve, saying that's not really all that big of a
Well,
deal.
yeah, no, that isn't, because the 20-year bond is hasn't even been around for that long.
Yeah.
Uh, I think that's insignificant, 20s to 30s.
Yeah.
You have to look at a 2 to 10, or 2 to 30. That's usually the more significant thing.
Yes, no alternative question. In the event of a loss of confidence in fiat, seen as the central banks hold a lot of gold, will they still have all the power? Also, do you know how much gold the public hold? Uh,
Well,
Go ahead, Mario. I'll see if I can find this.
yeah, the central banks, they hold about 17% of all the gold above ground. so the public hold 83% of the gold. You see, but
and that's
the problem is the central banks control a lot more of the gold price because they have the COMEX and LBMA, and they also work together. The bullion banks, the central banks, they collude. So if people lose faith and confidence in the fiat currencies, yeah, what usually happens, the market will do the reset like it did in 1980. They'll buy gold, and the rising price of gold will stabilize and give the central banks a bit more credibility. So that could be, but they're reluctant to allow that to happen. They will try to keep gold away from the public, how can I say, conscience, as much as possible, because the more gold is important, the less they are important.
Right. And then also, as far as the known amount of gold above ground, because and that's where, outside of the World Gold Council and all the entities telling us who holds what, I still believe that there are a lot of those super uber wealthy individuals that are the creators of the central banks. I would imagine their private stashes of gold is unknown, of course. Probably. And I would assume that their stashes are a lot greater, to where it's nowhere near as much gold in the public's hands, rather as in private hands, that we don't know about. And of course, we'll never know. But that's why I think gold has always been so important to them, because has always been the anchor to the system. And it's still a part of their plans in the future, while they sell us on all the digital stuff. But time will tell.
I listened to a good speech earlier today. It was from Lawrence Lepard. He's on Twitter. He's an American money manager, and he was at the New Orleans conference, which is a precious metals conference. And he's very pro gold, sound money, anti-central bank. But he also talked about Bitcoin. That Bitcoin is also anti-government. And I kind of agree with him on that. And that we should not be fighting against each other.
Right.
But, I favor gold and silver. I do have some exposure to cryptocurrencies and Bitcoin, as I've said before. But yeah, if you can find that, if you guys are on Twitter, I recommend you try to find his Twitter handle, Lawrence Lepard. It's Lepard. He gave a really good speech.
Yeah, I've so I think it was maybe beginning of last year, I came across Lawrence Lepard. And I think before that time, he didn't have much of a interviewing presence. So I had him on a show a couple of times a while back in the day, and he does a great job of explaining things in details.
Yeah,
and he's blown up. He's blown up big time.
Yeah, he told a story in this speech. He was at an investment conference of money managers, and the people who were running the conference was Tim Geithner, Hank Paulson, Ben Bernanke, all the people who supposedly saved the planet, the system in 2008.
Yeah.
And Tim Geithner was giving a speech, and he said, "So how many of you think it was the wrong thing to do to save the system and the banks in 2008?" And he said there were 500 people there, and no one raised their hands. And eventually he raised his hand, and he gave his reason, and they kind of cut him off. And he said Geithner had a prepared answer to counter it.
Yeah.
And he said afterwards, when they went for drinks, cocktails, he said out of those 500 people, 60% of them ignored him. And then he said all the other people came and said, "Well done, good on you to come out," and because no one had the courage to come out and criticize the system.
Yeah. Especially if out of those 500 people, most of them are actually probably active money managers / people who rely upon the system.
They make money from it.
Right. So you can't come out and out nobody. Here's a question here from Jim Jones. It says, what impact would BTC price of 250,000 have on U.S. treasuries? That's a good one there. I don't know. What do you think, Mario?
I don't know. I have no idea.
That's a good question.
1,000 to 60,000, and treasuries are still, treasury yields are still really low. I have no idea,
Yeah. Now,
really.
Now, the only thing comes to mind about that is that just the decoupling of the new asset class to the old. And so at a $250,000 price tag, I would assume a lot of institutions have probably gotten out of all the debt liabilities and gone into BTC, to where it puts a little bit of a threat
Yeah.
on government being able to continue to just
Yeah, it
borrow.
could mean, it could mean that yields would be higher if
Yeah.
Bitcoin is at 250, because it means people are concerned about the value of the dollar. But
Mhm.
they've been printing and printing and printing, and we've seen commodities go up, we've seen CPI go up, and they're
Mhm.
still managing to control
Yeah.
the bond market, even though we're seeing some cracks in places like, in the periphery, like in Australia, Canada, in Europe. Yields are starting to go up. So maybe the bond vigilantes are starting to wake up.
Yeah. Somebody says most people can't afford gold. Yeah, gold, you can get the 1/10 of an ounce. You got a variety, you got the
Oh,
grams, you got a variety of assortments out there. So
yeah, I think that's yeah, you can afford gold. Maybe a lot of people can't, but a lot of people can't afford Bitcoin either,
mhm.
because
You
if
can
you
get
try to buy,
you can get a fraction of
if
that
you,
in a Satoshi, you know.
yeah, you can, but what about the cost?
So right, like, so there's several little crypto platforms that I've
But
noticed that
yeah,
you can get smaller. Of course,
yeah.
you get fees, but just think about it.
Mm,
Like right now, whatever you pay for now, based on the current trends, you're going to get that
yeah.
back in a very timely
But
manner.
you could, with Glint,
Uh-huh.
I've spoken about Glint.
Hmm.
You can buy, there's a GlintPay app, which I have a referral code for
Hmm.
in my channel.
Yeah.
Uh, uh, you can buy as little as $1 of gold,
Yeah.
worth of gold, and they hold it in your name, in
Hmm.
an allocated account in a vault in Switzerland. And
Yeah.
then yeah, so you can with gold as well.
Yeah.
There you go. Yeah,
Yeah.
my referral code is Mario Glint 79. Just a little bit of a sales pitch.
Yeah, no, definitely use it. No, definitely. If you
Yeah,
guys are interested, do that. Yeah, I
yeah,
remember, so I remember James Turk and Bit Gold, a couple
gold
years
money.
ago.
Yeah.
And so I jumped on that. So it was Bit Gold. It was Bit Gold at first. Then they sold it to Gold Money out in
Oh
Canada,
yeah.
and then became Gold Money. And I was a part of that program for a while. But yet, once it went commercial and it became a publicly traded entity, when they sold it, when James Turk sold it,
I
that's
think they
when,
sold it.
yeah, they
Sorry, I
sold it. They
interrupted.
sold it to a younger guy, real smart. I can't think of his name, but it's a publicly traded company now.
Seabag
Yeah,
was
yeah,
his
yeah, yeah.
surname.
So he sold it to
But
him. It became a publicly traded company, and from down there, it became a surveillance mechanism to me, man. Because the apps,
yeah,
they want to know. I'm like, nah, I'm straight.
and the Soros
Got involved with that
asset
as well.
manager, yeah, they bought part of Gold Money. That's the reason why.
Yeah.
Glint, though, they're based out of London. They've got a US office, and they contacted me back in 2017, 2018.
Hmm.
And the CEO and the founder of Glint, he said that he's in it because he wants people to have sound money, because
Yeah.
after the '08 crisis, he learned about the system.
Yeah.
So there you go.
Like one of the bonuses or benefits at having used a Gold Money, because it went from BitGo to Gold Money, I still had my little debit card or whatever. So you have the allocation of metals in different vaults. So I like that feature. And what it came in most handy for with me was I went to Cuba, and of course Cuba doesn't accept you can't use credit cards, debit cards, but I was able to use my Gold Money card and make transactions in Cuba, because I was either have cash or a foreign credit card or whatever. So I was using that, and that came in handy because I definitely
Mm.
came into a pinch and I needed it one time. So
Yeah, Glint gives you a MasterCard,
mhm.
which you can use all around the world as well. You can lock your card to gold or to
Yeah,
dollars or pounds, and spend it wherever you want.
yeah, and that's where, like, at this current environment, I'm not looking to spend anything other than fiat currencies.
Mhm.
I'm spending those things best I guess, so fast
Yeah,
as I get them. I see. All right, well, so we're about that 45-minute mark, Mario. We ready to dial it back a little bit?
yeah,
All right, so let me see. I don't see any new questions out there. I don't think a lot of people talk about gold. So Goldback is another opportunity out in Utah. It's a company that has those little
yeah.
gold notes, and
I've seen
so
those. Yeah,
those are quite handy. And so hopefully those things they circulate locally a lot there, but just another alternative have. But anyway, so as we get ready to draw things down, Mario, let's end on a good note. What do you have planned? Anything this weekend? Unplug, unwind, or what do you got? What you got going on?
Actually, tomorrow I'm gonna go up to central London, and one of the my viewers organized, I think about 2 years ago. He's a member of like a private club where you go and you can have lunch and stuff. So we went, I think, in 2019.
Yeah.
And we talked about things, cryptocurrencies, gold. So we have the third one tomorrow. So I'm going to London.
Sweet.
And there's going to be some other guys there. Like, have you heard of Dominic Frisby?
Dominic Frisby.
Yeah.
Ring a bell, but I'm not familiar with him.
Yeah, he's going to be there. And I'm not sure how it's going to be, though, because the last time we went to this place, they wanted to take my temperature and all this regulations. But yeah, it's going to be interesting. I'm not going to take my mobile phone. So if they ask me for anything, I say, sorry, I don't use my mobile phone on the weekends.
I don't have one of those.
I'm just going to take cash and my debit card. We'll see how it goes. But I'm looking forward to going and spending the afternoon there, having some food and talking about different things. And then hopefully I'm going to play golf Sunday morning. So that's what's good, going on.
Yeah. So other than me, I'm just hanging out with my wife a little bit and going to some church events, hang out with some other believers. That's about it. I have to unplug. That's for sure.
Yeah, I played golf. I played golf yesterday. Yeah, and it was nice because I just decided to go, and the golf course was really empty, and I played on my own, and I played 18 holes in just over 2 hours, and usually it takes 4 hours to play, so it was nice.
Yeah. Well, that's good, man.
You need to switch off and do things, or else
you plug back into
go
reality.
crazy looking at all the news about what's going on.
For real, I'm experiencing some of that now. But everybody, we appreciate you hanging out with us this afternoon. I hope you got a little something out of all this. But other than that, hit the thumbs up button. Definitely go check out Manico64. And other than that, we'll be back at it again next week, Lord willing. And other than that, enjoy your weekend. Make sure you do something different. Be a blessing to somebody, and just enjoy the days while you have them, because God is still good. So appreciate you guys. Be blessed. Be safe. See you later. Peace.